It's episode 150 of the Business Anchors podcast. How are you feeling, Dan?
I'm excited. 150 episodes in. Did you think we'd be here 2 years on, 3 years on? 150 episodes?
Is it that many years? I didn't think we would, no. I thought we'd be dead. Oh, we have a laugh. I thought it was going to be good, but I thought, well, the way things change, I thought eventually, we'll be like, oh, let's try something new now.
Yeah.
Let's do this, which I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anchors, but 150 episodes, 1.5 episodes.
And we're still here.
We're still here.
And we've got a really
Going
special
strong.
episode, Lloyd.
We have. We got questions and answers. Questions from Business Anchors listeners.
Answers from us.
Yeah. And we're really knowledgeable.
And there's some really good ones, actually. We got some of the anchors to send in some of their questions, and we've got some really interesting ones. Starting with, and excuse my pronunciation, Becca Margot Turner.
Right. And try again. Let's see a different option.
Becca Margot Turner. She said, what is one achievement you're most proud of in your life so far, and what did you learn from it?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, go on,
My
Lloyd.
biggest
What's one of your biggest achievements?
I found this really hard. I was literally reading the questions and prepping for this episode, and I thought, I don't think I feel proud much. And then I felt a bit sad. I was like, oh, is that a bad thing? But I don't think it's an emotion I feel much. But when I really got thinking, it's like I do feel proud when I feel like I've had a positive effect on my son Leo somehow. So as a bit of a story, something that made me feel proud, we went into the co-op to buy some stuff for a barbecue recently, and there was a man, I think he had some mobility issues, and kind of bending over, and at first didn't feel like the proudest father. Leo sort of mimicked him.
Classic.
But he was only sort of 5 at the time, so fair enough. He wasn't being horrible. And then he sort of said, why is that man walking like that? And after me embarrassingly kind of, speak about it in a minute, I sort of said, oh, I don't know. I don't know the man. He said, oh, it's probably just because everyone's different and we're all different. And
he's so cute.
And that's just, it doesn't matter. We're all different and we look different and things. And I was like, yes, Leo, I think I've passed on some things to make you a good person. And another thing, he's recently been saying he wants his job to be, when he's older, a person who makes the world a better place.
Nice. He's definitely your son.
So that makes me feel proud. I think outside of family, I think this business makes me feel proud sometimes, but more the individuals within the business, seeing them, feeling like I've supported them somehow, had some influence on them improving and achieving things that are really cool.
Yeah.
I think, so this isn't meant to be patronizing. This is meant to be a proud moment, but someone that we hired who used to work in a hotel, and we kind of gave him his first opportunity to do this kind of work. And I feel really proud, when I see him doing really cool stuff, and when he does something and I'm like, oh, wow, a year ago, you couldn't do that standard of work and now you're smashing it.
Yeah.
That makes me feel a bit proud that I've just been part of it.
Yeah.
So
yours is more seeing other people do good things that you've enabled.
That I feel like I've had some impact, because obviously the person at work, they're doing 90% of the work, and I've tried to help. And Leo is his own person, and he could just be like, yeah, people are different and I don't like these types of people. I'm like, great, I've got a racist on my hands. But yeah, I suppose feeling like I've got a part in that. What about you? What makes you feel proud?
I guess mine's a completely different take. Because yours is very you, selfless, thinking of others and that kind of thing.
Well, I try and make people think that that's what I'm like.
Exactly. Mine's more about me and what I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I guess when I was thinking about this, there was loads of achievements that I was thinking, could I say that? Could I say that? But then I thought I'd go with this one. No, I'm joking. Mine is about how I'm doing all right at spinning a number of plates. I think looking at the different plates I'm kind of spinning with the business, I feel like we're doing all right growing the business. Being a fiance, I feel like I'm being a good fiance. Yeah. Being a dad, I feel like I'm doing all right at that. My health and fitness, doing all right at that. And I feel like I'm doing okay at spinning all of these plates.
Important life things.
Yeah.
And you're managing them.
Yeah. But I guess my kind of key lesson from that is that I think you always have to sacrifice something. Like, even though I'm spinning those plates and I'm doing all right, I feel like as a dad, I'm working 5 days a week. If I was a stay-at-home dad 24 hours a day.
If you actually cared about your children.
If I actually cared about my children, I'd be a much better dad.
Yeah.
So something always has to kind of be sacrificed. But I feel like I'm proud of doing all right at each of the different areas.
I think that's good self-awareness and good like valuing the balance, because people beat themselves up about not being perfect in all areas. And the reality is, I think, as far as I'm concerned, that's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be the perfect dad, the perfect fiance, the perfect person at work, the perfect health and fitness god. So I think that's good that you're self-aware. I think we could all learn from like trying to balance it the best we can, but not feeling like we have to be perfect in all areas.
I feel like I do struggle with that though, because I do always want to be the best at everything.
Want to be perfect.
Yeah. And then I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm proud of doing all right at each of those different areas.
And I think that, that's good that you've learnt. I think I could definitely learn from that, of like trying to be balanced rather than perfect in everything and getting better at that.
Yeah.
So we've spoken a bit about what fulfills us there. Claire Miller asked a really simple question. Thank you, Claire. And thank you for having an easy name to pronounce. She says, are you happy?
I'd say yes.
Oh, that was a big sigh.
No, I think it was thinking about, I've thought a lot about this, and I've tried to, like, my answer is yes, I feel fairly happy. And I think trying to self-analyze, why do I feel happy? And I think the biggest thing that's changed in my life to help me feel happier is the gap between my expectations and my reality is closing. So I remember listening to an amazing podcast with a guy called Mo Gaudat a while ago. Definitely go and check him out. He was on the Diary of the CEO. It's a really good podcast. He wrote a book called Solve for Happy, and he talks a lot about this kind of happiness equation, which is the gap between what your expectations are and what your reality is. And he says that the bigger that gap is, the more unhappy you are. And it makes sense. Like, if your expectations are, I'm going to have a Ferrari and a yacht and a massive house, and you don't have any of that, you're going to be constantly chasing that and thinking, I'm not good enough, I need those things. Whereas I guess I used to want all those things, and that used to be the biggest focus for me, and I didn't have it. So I was like, I still don't have my dream car, still don't have my dream house. But now I've kind of had kids and see them growing up and that kind of thing, I think I've started to care more about enjoying time with them and being kind of showing gratitude for what I currently have rather than what I want.
Well, that experience of seeing where that happiness comes from, like you said, starting a family and realising, I haven't got a yacht, but I'm feeling extremely happy when I'm holding this boy.
Yeah.
That is, I think that experience does gradually as you mature. Well, I've found that. Of like, oh, this is the happiest I've felt, and I haven't had to buy anything for it, or I don't have to be having a yacht or be surrounded by 12 supermodels.
No, exactly.
Not all the time, anyway.
Even like yesterday. So this is a weird example that made me feel happy. So I when I'm on the way to work, you'll normally call my other half, Christelle, and Brody answered the phone, and he was just saying to me loads, I love you, Daddy, I love you, Daddy. And I was like, that makes me way happier than having my dream car. Yeah. And it, like, you get a weird feeling inside that just makes you happy. And I never expected that.
I'm doing payroll for this month, Dan, and you'll be happy to know that you've earned 10 I love you, Daddies.
Thank you.
This month. So no money.
I'd rather those.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure. I'll speak to your son.
What about
you?
the
gap between reality and expectation. We've spoken about this a lot after hearing that from Mo Gaudat, and we really believe in it. I think something that's really I've developed over time and continue to try to develop is when something happens and things don't go to plan, which, let's be honest, in most people's lives is probably 90%. Like, how often is it that everything goes to plan 100%?
Never.
It's quite often different. And I've reduced the time of how long it takes to realign my expectations and therefore feel happier again. It used to be, there could be something that happened, and for months I'd be like, oh, that's rubbish. I wanted to buy this £500,000 house and I can't now, and I've got this £300,000 house. But then more recently, I've got to the point where I realign my expectations quickly, there's always a short period of time where your expectations change and you have to get over that. But now I can do that in days or hours, feel a bit down in the dumps for an hour or something, and then be like, okay, well, that's happened. Now my expectations are I'm going to buy the £300,000 house.
Yeah.
And then it's stupidly simple. But then suddenly it's like, oh, I feel as happy as if I was going to buy the £500,000 house, because that's where my expectations are and that's what I'm aiming for. And I feel fulfilled because I've got there.
That is such a good skill to have. Like if thinking of the anchors who want to apply that, because I think that is a huge inverted commas life hack to being happier, is closing that time it takes to realign your expectations. What advice would you give anchors who want to get better at, when things change, realigning those expectations in a short amount of time so they feel less shitty for less amount of time?
I would just say practice that, what I've just said basically. So when things change and you realize I can't reach those expectations anymore, things have changed, I can't get there, just realign your expectations as soon as you can and think, what's possible now? Okay, this is what's possible, and aim for that and work towards that. Because as soon as you start working towards that new goal and it's more aligned and it's something that's realistic, your happiness comes back like that. You think, oh, cool. The little thing in your brain gets that little pat on the head. It's like, oh, I'm working towards this thing and it's achievable. And you feel happy. So I think try and realign those expectations as soon as you can, and realize things happen that you can't control.
I think also go and read Soul for Happy, which is the book by Mo Gaudat. That completely changed the way I think about happiness, and also started to practice like gratitude more, and thinking of like, what do I actually, every day I started at the end of the day thinking, what am I grateful for today? And it sounds really fluffy and sort of sad, but thinking that then makes you feel like, wow, I'm really grateful for having an amazing team around me, an amazing family, and two lovely kids, and
so many good things. And if you focus on that, there's no doubt you'll be happier.
Yeah.
We've got a question from someone, another Kent-based business owner, Dan.
Nice.
Alex Durham, I would say. And they've asked, for the best way of engaging with freelancers, should you have contracts or do you follow theirs? So this is something we've been working on recently, and I would say I don't think we're perfect at this. So we're on this kind of journey, as you always are in business, basically, always looking for improvements. But we work in an industry where freelancers are kind of vital. So for video production, we might need a team of 6 people working on a project for a few months, and then the shoot comes along and we suddenly need 25 people in over a period of 3 days. So we work with a lot of freelancers, and what we've been trying to do is have more kind of firm contracts, communicate details of how we work in advance, and improve our communication and processes with freelancers early on. And it seems like it's really starting to have a positive effect. On the last shoot we had a couple of weeks ago, working with some actors and makeup artists, photographers that we've worked with in the past, and I overheard conversations of them sort of actively saying, oh, it's so good working with these guys because the communication's so good and we knew what's expected and we get paid on time. And so my answer to that would be try and lead the way in processes and communication of how you want to work with freelancers, rather than let those freelancers kind of do what they want, because you might think that would be better, like, oh, you can do whatever you want or work whatever way you want. But actually I've found with our teams, they really appreciate it with the more guidance and processes from us.
I was going to say, something I'm really, really proud of is how focused our team are on ensuring that freelancers actually enjoy working with us.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely heard people saying, oh, wow, the makeup artist said that they've loved working with us on this shoot, or the photographer, and that, yeah, I'm just really proud of that we're not just focusing on ourselves, we're focused on building those kind of relationships. Also, something that, I don't know if you still do this, Lloyd, but you used to kind of score freelancers that we worked with.
It sounds weird scoring a human, I have to admit.
Yeah.
But when it was me managing this process when the business was smaller, I literally wrote a score out of 100 after I'd worked with someone. And that sounds weird and the team laugh at me for it. But it's because it's impossible after you work with maybe over 100 people, hundreds of people, then to remember exactly everyone. And afterwards, it was good to know, like, oh, okay, I have a list of 20 makeup artists, and the bottom one was scored 7. Because during COVID rules, they would try to make me break them, and she was like giving me high five, and then going, ha ha, you gave me high five, you broke your own rules. And I was like, Oh, yeah, you seem
We won't be working with you again.
Frustrating to work with. And then the top one's obviously like 96, because like anytime I would work with them again, they were absolutely brilliant, really added value, exceeded our expectations. So yeah, that is weird, but data does help with that sort of thing. So I don't think the team now score with numbers, but people certainly go into pots of definitely work with again. Yeah, we can work with these again. Maybe not. Definitely not, that kind of thing.
That data has definitely helped us to work with better freelancers. Like tracking that data and making better, more data-informed decisions has been useful.
I've seen that you're talking about data in the answer to your next question from Jack Foster as well. Jack says, what's the one thing you've learned in 150 episodes that you wish you knew in episode 1?
This is a really interesting one. I feel like we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 150 episodes, but one of them is definitely to do with data, and it's about making more data-informed decisions.
That sounds really interesting.
It is. I think when we started out, we would make decisions sort of off a whim. You know, did that episode feel good? Did it feel like we had a good chat on that episode? Or, you know, thinking of the kind of topics we're talking about and how we're shaping episodes and things like that. But now we really analyze and track the data. Like in our weekly meetings that we have every week, we myself and our marketing manager present the data for the podcast, how it's performed, how many downloads we've got, what did well, what didn't do so well. And we're constantly shaping the episode topics and the way these podcasts are designed to try and ensure that you anchors are enjoying them and listening for as long as possible. And one of the tools that's really helped us to do that recently is ChatGPT. So I recently asked ChatGPT to help us analyze our top performing podcast episode titles and give me some data to tell me why they perform so well and trying to find some patterns. So I won't go into like this in huge detail because we're going to be talking about this next week when we talk about ChatGPT in more detail. But I basically looked at our top performing episodes in terms of downloads and said to ChatGPT, here are a list of our top performing episodes, and then listed the titles.
I assume it must have been the couple that I just did solo, wasn't it? Probably like...
I don't think they were up there. I think they were probably the bottom.
Probably just outside the top 10, 11,
yeah,
12,
yeah. We're just outside.
Yeah.
And I asked ChatGPT to analyze those episodes and show me patterns that it's seen as to why they perform so well. And some of the things it shared were insane. Like it really, really impressed me. So there was kind of 4 key areas that it focused on. It said that the podcast episode titles were problem solving focused. They showed case studies and real world examples, showed quantifiable results, and they were had platform specific tactics. And like looking at some of the episodes, it was completely right. So for example, one episode, how we are using AI to overtake our competitors, or 13 underrated LinkedIn tactics to drive B2B sales. And it really gave me some useful insights into kind of why they're
so clear with those titles, like the problem solving nature of it. And I wouldn't have even thought about it because some of the stuff we talk about is quite vague, not vague like as in, oh, it's just shit, but as in we're covering a wide topic and talking about lots of different things. And then some it's very much like how to do this to help you do this.
This is what really impressed me. I'll just read out one kind of blurb from one of the points. This is what really impressed me. So one of the key things it said is our top performing episodes are problem solving focused. And it said each title presents a specific problem or challenge that listeners presumably face, e.g. selling without annoying customers, or leveraging AI, or overcoming founder challenges, or planning workload. This focus on problem solving is a strong draw for listeners who will anticipate gaining practical insights or solutions from the episode. Like that alone, I read that and like that makes complete sense. ChatGPT is like a data analyst that we've got for $20 a month that's analyzing what's working, what isn't working, giving us these useful insights. It's amazing.
Yeah. I do think the value, you know, like you're saying, just the value of that point is going to be massive, you know, and that's compounding over the next year as we use that information for more and more podcast episodes. It really is amazing that you can gain that.
So from the last 150 episodes, what have you learned, or what's your biggest kind of takeaway?
So don't be too critical of me because this is something I'm working on, but I've learned more and more that it doesn't matter how interesting the topic of the podcast is or what we're discussing. It really is a skill to be able to communicate effectively and kind of perform as a podcast host. Before, I'd say in episode 1, I just thought, well, as long as what you're talking about is interesting, it'll be fine. Like we're interesting people and stuff, but like I feel so strongly now more than ever that it makes such a difference actually being decent at communicating and being a podcaster, and it's such a skill that you really have to work on. And I've identified that I don't think either of us are perfect at this, and we're trying to improve this element. And I don't think we really focused on that probably for the first 130 episodes.
Do you know the challenging thing, right? This is the challenging thing. So there's a few key things you're trying to do on an episode. You're trying to come across as yourself. Like we don't want to pretend to be something we're not.
You don't want to perform to the extent where you're literally a character. Well, that's not what we're trying to do.
But at the same time, Lloyd, you're trying to communicate your points eloquently and to the point and not waffle. So you've got to think about that.
So be yourself, but be a more entertaining and interesting version of yourself, and don't talk about anything that isn't interesting. Don't be yourself, but be yourself.
Exactly. Next, you've got to have 120% of your energy as compared to if you're just normally talking to each other.
Even if you're tired, you've been up all night with the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's all these different elements that go into trying to ensure these episodes sound as good as possible for you guys.
I think the next part of that is the best podcast hosts do all of that while sounding like they're not trying to do any of that. Obviously, we're communicating with you, all that stuff, which you wouldn't normally. But yeah, the people that are the best to listen to sound like they're not trying at all, but they're doing all of those things.
So I think it's very difficult to do all of those things extremely well, and we're constantly trying to improve that. One thing that helps, and this is a lesson that I've just thought about, is actually ensuring you're enjoying doing it. Because then a lot of those things kind of have a base level because you're enjoying it.
Because part of what we enjoy is like the two-way discussion, because we're brothers and we get on and stuff and we can have a laugh and stuff. I think episodes where it's more like I'm delivering this piece of information, I think we get less enjoyment out of, and that comes across to listeners. I think the natural chemistry we have and talking to each other and enjoying it is a really big part of it for us.
I also think one final thing on this point, I find that in the last 150 episodes, doing this has helped me become a better communicator outside of the podcast, and like helped me communicate my ideas more eloquently. Not that I'm perfect at all, got a long way to go, but compared to listening to like episode 1 to now, when I'm on video or speaking at events and that kind of thing, I feel like because every week we sit down and have a discussion and communicate our ideas, it helps you like train that muscle of getting your ideas across in a way that is less waffly than before, although we're still trying.
I mean, the first 50 episodes, I was known for just listening to you and then occasionally saying, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
I'm just doing a little bark like a dog saying yes,
Yeah.
and then not saying anything else.
Yeah.
I like to think I do that less now. I still notice I do it sometimes.
Yeah. You've definitely improved.
Yeah. So talking about things we've learned, Jess Baker has a question saying, what's the greatest piece of advice anyone has ever given you, Dan?
This is a really good one. And it makes me think back to when I did GCSE food tech.
Good old days.
So when I did GCSE food tech, this is a bit of a weird story, but there's a lesson in this. Normally, I was really good at school. Like I was pretty good at trying, like opposite to you. No, in terms of I'd actually make an effort to try.
Just pretty good at life, not like my brother Lloyd.
No, you were good, but you didn't try. I had to try really hard to be good. You were just naturally
Everyone
good.
loves a trier.
So at GCSE drama, for some reason, with the coursework,
food tech, right?
GCSE food tech, sorry. I just left it to completely the last minute. So as part of the coursework, I had to create 20 different variations of one dish. So changing the recipe slightly, then write up a whole piece of coursework around how that variation impacted the taste, the flavour, the viscosity. I remember doing a viscosity test.
Okay.
That's like where how much it spreads, the liquid spread.
Yeah, just sounds a bit rank, doesn't it?
Anyway, yeah. So I left it to the last minute. For some reason, I came home and I was just really upset and was like crying to mum and dad, like, oh, I'm a failure. I haven't done my coursework. And it needed to be in the next day. And dad took me to one side and said, right, all you can do is your best now. All you can do is your best. Let's go to Tesco's. Let's get a load of ingredients. Let's get all these different dishes and let's do it all tonight and just do our best. And for some reason, him saying to me, all you can do is your best, completely switched in my head. And I thought, I'm going to do my best now.
Yeah.
And I just did it. We spent all night cooking and I got an A.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Dad got an A. Nice.
Yeah.
All you can do is your best. And by that, I mean, all you can do is my best. I'm going to take you to Tesco's now and make loads of fish pies.
No, I did all the writing up and stuff, but he helped me cook them all. And
help with the viscosity test.
He did.
Nice.
What about you, Lloyd? What's
the best piece of advice I got was so picture this, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
You're in Canterbury Christchurch University in one of your first ever university lectures. You sit down, your tummy rumbles because you've currently got digestive issues and you keep having diarrhea, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, okay.
And you're in a lecture about critical thinking.
Right.
So this was the best lecture I've listened to in my life and has affected me massively. Most of the others are really terrible. Not a good university experience.
I'm intrigued.
And I just think since that day, I have any information that I've listened to, watched, been told by other people, I now think in my own mind, is that true? Where can I find information to work out if it's true or not? So this even happened with my father-in-law at the weekend. He said to me something about why are we taking so many immigrants into the UK and they're not workers. They can't work. They're just immigrants that aren't working. Why have we got so many in the UK and other countries aren't having them?
Right.
And so I think before that lecture, I would have said, yeah, that is weird. Why have we got so many more immigrants coming into the country than other countries? But I said to my father-in-law, oh, I'm not sure that's true. Let me have a look at the numbers.
Yeah.
And then I looked, and the actual data is we have far less immigrants coming to the UK than most other European countries and countries around the world. So although it can cause some awkward, because if someone says to you something that they believe,
and you say,
oh, I'm not sure that's true, and you don't have to do that. Sometimes if I watch something on TV or read a headline, I'll just Google and be like, oh, is that actually true? But I think it's really important. And I think sometimes just listening to information and believing it causes people to be unhappy in their life, because people do sort of watch daytime TV and read headlines that say these immigrants are taking your jobs. And understandably, if you've been reading that for 20 years,
you're going to think
you're going to think angry. Think angry. You're going to feel angry and be like, oh, my life would be so much better if these immigrants weren't taking my jobs. Please don't clip that. Please include all the context of this conversation. But if you look into it, go, oh, actually, they're not really. A lot of immigrants are doing the jobs we need to in the National Health Service and farming, and we've got far less coming into the UK than other countries. Actually, we don't have as big a burden as those countries and things. Then you feel good about it. You think, oh, that's good. And I think it's the case with a lot of other things. You might get been told by your family or your parents that doing certain things isn't the right way to live your life. And it's only when you make your own decisions and think critically and read up about it for yourself that you can make the decision and know if that's right. Maybe your parents have said, no, you shouldn't travel the world, or you shouldn't start your own business because it's too risky. Whereas for you, it might be the right thing to do.
So was the advice that you learned in that lecture or seminar to basically question everything you hear and try and make your own decisions based on your own research rather than like, oh, they said that, I'm just going to believe it? Is that the...
Question everything, but think critically. And sometimes someone will say something to you and you'll think about it and you'll read about it or you'll find it and it will be true. That's okay too. But I think it's just helped me so much in life. There's been things that people have told me or the media has told me that could have negatively affected my life, but I question it and read up on it and that kind of thing, and then it doesn't negatively affect my life because I find the real information.
Nice. We also got a really interesting question from Brandon Davies that I want to share with you, anchors. He asked, how can parents maintain a sense of humility, gratitude and wonder throughout their lives, and how do these qualities influence their parenting style and their children's well-being?
What a question.
That was...
Why Brandon thinks we're the good people to answer this, I have no idea, but thank you, Brandon. What do you think then?
I actually saw a really interesting post that you shared on Instagram recently that shared the answer to this question. Right. Not the answer to this question, but it spoke about what to do if your kid wants to quit a sport. And I just want to share this with the anchors because I know this answers part of the question, but I found this really, really interesting as a parent. So there's an Instagram account called Big Life Journal, and they share lots of useful kind of parenting advice and things. And let me just share their kind of advice for this. So this is all about what to do if your child wants to quit a sport. And it said, advice from an Olympic gold medalist. And you actually shared this and I found it for you. Yeah. So they said this: imagine your child comes back from a practice and says, I hate karate, it's too hard, or I don't want to do this anymore. just tell them this. And this is really good. Okay, you can quit, but not today. And they go on to explain that you should say, we all have bad days when we want to quit. When something feels hard, our brain and body resist because they want us to be comfortable. But if we quit on a bad day, we will never become great at something and we might regret this later. So here's the deal. You can quit on a good day. When you have a successful day and you still want to quit, let's talk. That is bloody brilliant advice, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you shared that and read it, I was getting the hairs on my back of my neck going up because it's
weirdly, I didn't communicate it as eloquently as that, but my son literally came back from karate, sport, and said, "I don't want to do this." And I wasn't as good as that, but I did say to him, sometimes things are hard, but it's good to keep trying, and you'll feel really good afterwards if you get past it. But I wish I read that before, because I would have sounded like such a good parent.
I remember when I did swimming lessons, Mum must have hated me for this. And I'm so glad she made me do it. Every swimming lesson when I was a kid, I would literally have a tantrum and I hated it. And I would scream and I'd kick and scream and Mum was basically like, right, you need to learn how to swim. You need to learn how to swim. Yeah. Did it for years, learned how to swim. I'm so happy she persisted with making me learn how to swim, because I was exactly the same, just hating it. But
right, I'm going to move on to a question about me, Dan.
Yeah, let's do it.
Carla Terry says, has Lloyd had acting classes? And obviously it's a question we get a lot, because I'm such a good actor and performer that you might think I've been to acting school.
Have you?
No. As I said earlier. Oh, no, I didn't mention it. My GCSE drama, I didn't do my coursework and just put some history textbooks in the folder to make it feel heavier.
Let's go into this. So you didn't do your coursework?
No, as you said before when you talked about your food, I didn't really try, and it got to the point where I had to hand this folder in with my coursework, and it had to have something in, so I just put history textbooks in there to make it heavy, and then it got sent off to the exam board or whatever, and then I got a thing. My teacher said, "Oh, your coursework wasn't in your folder," and I said, "Well, it was when I gave it to you." And I think I got given a C in the end because they sort of thought they'd lost it.
That is a classic Lloyd.
So, but luckily the practical, I think I did well and I got a B overall or something like that. But
didn't your drama teacher got fired, didn't he, for
Mr. Molest Me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's one of those horrible nicknames the teachers get. Oh, well, it wasn't horrible because it turns out he wasn't supposed to be filming my classes. Yeah, bit rank,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting one.
Yeah, that is a word you could use. Right, final question, Dan. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Rebecca Pay, and by the way, Rebecca, see you engaging in a lot of our content and stuff. Thank you very much. Rebecca Pay, if you weren't doing what you do now, running your successful agency, thank you, Rebecca, what job do you think you would be doing?
That's a good one. I reckon I'd be doing something in sales. And probably tech sales. I've got a friend that works in tech sales and earns a lot of money. And I think, like I was saying earlier, younger Dan would be focused on just making as much money as possible to get the yacht and the car and the mansion. So yeah, I'd probably be working in tech sales because I really enjoy the sales element of my role and I think I'm all right at it. So I'd be trying to do that. What
I could not... Dan, that would be, if you said, what's the shittest thing you could do? I'd say tech sales.
Oh, really?
I would, I'd be so bad at that and I would hate it.
I reckon, really? What would you do then? What would you be doing if you weren't?
If we didn't have this, I think, if I'm honest,
drama teacher.
I feel like my life could have gone in many different directions because of my personality where I have lots of ideas. And I reckon I could have easily gone in a direction of just like living in his mum and dad's spare room, kind of playing Xbox.
Yeah, I agree. You could have done that.
Because I could have been like, I don't really give a shit. I'm just going to do this over here.
Yeah.
Or I reckon like a number of things, acting, politics, charity, one of those sort of things. Or I think I really could have easily just got into a job that I hated with a boss that I hated and just been kind of angry at the world.
Just moaned at...
Yeah, I think so. So thankfully we did this. No, I think eventually whatever happens, I would have come around to doing it. But I think it might have taken me longer to work out what I wanted to do if we didn't start this business when we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Weird.
Very weird. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this special episode 150.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you, everyone who sent in questions, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to this. And thanks to all the anchors who continue to listen to these episodes. We're always working hard to try and improve them and come up with new ideas for how to improve this. And if you've got any kind of topic ideas that you'd want us to focus on, send them in. Also, remember, this podcast isn't free to listen to. You have to pay with a review.
Yeah.
So make sure you review this podcast on whatever platform you're on.
Yeah. I'll be reading the reviews in the next couple of days. If you're planning on listening to another Business Anchors episode, feel free to do it after that one. If you're planning on going anywhere else on the internet, just pay us with a review now. That would be great. I'll be on the door waiting for you.
And we'll see you in your ears next week.